Welcome to the Oldish TV. If you're aging, like me, or if you have an interest in aging for any reason, like me, this is the place to be because we talk about everything having to do with aging. My name is Karen Brown. I'm the publisher and editor of The Oldish, and I'm so happy to welcome you here with us today. Now, we have three different tidbits of study data that came across my desk in the past few days to talk to you about. They're really, really interesting. So hang on with us. We're going to talk about microbes in your gut. We're going to talk about supplements. And we're going to start by talking about a study that was done at North Carolina State University. And in this study, researchers had a bunch of people fill out questionnaires for 8 consecutive days. Now, the people involved in this were 116 adults between the ages of 60 and 90, and 107 younger adults between the ages of 18 and 36. So the surveys that they filled out assessed their daily stresses, their physical health, the sense of control they had over their daily lives, and how old they felt. Interestingly, for the older people, regardless of physical health and daily stresses, the more they felt they were in control of their lives, the younger they felt. This is a good thing. It was quite the opposite for the younger people. They felt older when their stress and physical health were impacted. Imagine. They felt older. It had nothing to do with control. Their assessment of themselves had to do with stress and physical health, made them feel older. But the older people felt better about themselves and younger as a result when they were in control. Now, this highlights the importance of making sure that older adults retain control of their lives. Now, we're not, of course, talking about older adults with cognitive issues, but older adults who are cognitively well should retain that control in their lives. They're going to feel better and younger. There you go. All right, the second one, gut bacteria. Those little things that float around in all of our stomachs can apparently profoundly affect the way that our brain acts. In fact, it impacts our emotions, how we think, and even how we behave, all from the little microbes in our guts. Now, this was a study that was done by a doctor, Dr. John Cryan, and he is a professor and chair of the Department of Anatomy and Neuroscience at University College Cork in Ireland. And he was studying stress. And in the course of studying this stress, he came upon some interesting studies. Some of them had kind of been ignored, but he put the puzzle pieces together. Now, there was a study that he found that was about 5 years old that was kind of ignored. It came out of Japan, and it had to do with animals, probably mice, but he just said animals, who had been raised essentially in a bubble. They had never been exposed to microbes, and they were completely germ-free. They had elevated stress levels. So he gathered together some colleagues, and they did a test where they introduced one single strain of bacteria to some mice who had also been raised in a germ-free environment. And they found that they could tone down the stress response very dramatically. Gut bacteria toning down stress levels. Pretty interesting. He has even looked at studies that studied everything from honeybees to hyenas to primates and humans, and discovered that when they noticed changes in social behavior, there was also a change in microbes in the gut. Imagine. So the question was posed to Dr. Cryan: if the microbes can affect our social interactions and our stress, what about how we think, our cognition? And the doctor responded, yes. Yes, studies in animals first showed that when we give certain strains of bacteria, we could modulate working memory in a variety of tasks. We could see how the animals were actually learning and able to remember things. That has real importance for older adults. So what you want to look at is the probiotics and the prebiotics that you're currently taking now. And what the doctor has concluded is that it is buyer beware. He says that a lot of what's being sold in Canada and the US has never had proper validation, and there's a lot of snake oil out there. So you want to be careful about that. The biggest takeaway of this for me, and what I want to communicate to you, is that the biggest factor that influences the composition of microbes in our gut is the diet we eat. Some very exciting work out of Australia, he notes, has shown that a mixed Mediterranean diet helps people who have depression on top of their medication and their psychotherapy. So what we eat is going to affect our emotions and how we think and how we behave to some extent. Isn't that interesting? I feel that that has great impact, given that the Mediterranean diet has been noted as the top diet several years in a row, best for your health. And of course, they talk about exercise as well and social engagement. But what goes into your gut? It seems like you should spend your money on good food to the extent that you are able, rather than perhaps wasting it on prebiotics and probiotics. Really interesting. The third study that came upon my desk is related. It has to do with supplements and the fact that many people take supplements in order to prevent or hold off various forms of dementias. This tells the story of an older woman and her daughter. The daughter took the mother to a memory clinic, and there the mother was prescribed 2 prescription drugs and 1 supplement. So she had 3 different things that she went home with. As she declined, the daughter didn't think that the vitamin or the 2 prescription drugs were doing any good. The vitamin, by the way, was a supplement that was a form of vitamin E. And the daughter just didn't think that they were doing any good. Still, the daughter took a fish oil capsule because I think she thought better safe than sorry, and it wouldn't do any harm. Her mother has since passed away, but it is noted that the difference between the older woman's experience and the vast majority of people is that the woman was prescribed this supplement or recommended this supplement by a doctor. The vast majority, 80% of older adults, are relying on dietary supplements to prevent or treat all kinds of things. And they're doing so without any recommendation from a doctor or their healthcare team. Last month, the FDA sent letters to the manufacturers of 60 some odd supplements that claim to help or prevent everything from Alzheimer's to stroke to erectile dysfunction. What the FDA letter said was claiming that these products were intended for the cure, mitigation, treatment, or prevention of disease meant that they were drugs. Now, we've talked about pharmaceuticals a lot here on The Oldish. We have a medication checklist that is available in our toolkit at theoldish.com. You do need to have a free account to get to it because you need to be behind the security wall. What you write in that medication checklist is nobody's business, but I urge you, if you don't use that one, to make your own, but to include what we have left space for, and that is the over-the-counter vitamins, supplements, herbal teas. You need to write all of this stuff down because all of those things are interacting with the prescription medications that your doctor may have given to you. Everything that goes in your mouth interacts with everything else that goes in your mouth. As the last study indicated, the microbes in our gut are controlling a lot, so you want to make sure that you have good interactions going on there. There was a doctor who did a study on ginkgo biloba, the extract. Many people take that for brain health. This was a federally supported study, I assume in the US. 3,000 people were followed for 7 years to see if ginkgo biloba reduced their dementia. It did not. So stop spending your money on that from the sounds of this. Better to spend your money on good food. So 2 separate panels at 2 separate times came up with 3 interventions that are going to have the most impact on your cognitive health. Now there is recognition of the fact that genetics does play a role in cognitive health. However, there are things that we can all do to mitigate that. Number 1, increased physical activity. Number 2, blood pressure management for people with hypertension, particularly middle-aged adults. Number 3, cognitive training. Now, by cognitive training, they don't necessarily mean the online brain games, although that's better than nothing. What they mean is actually getting out there and being mentally active, learning something new, stimulating your brain, and engaging with the world around you. Another doctor, Dr. Yaffe, who talks a lot about dementia prevention, also mentions good sleep hygiene and encourages and indeed urges people to protect themselves against brain injuries. Now, brain injuries, we've talked about a little bit. We've talked a lot more about falls here on the Oldish. 1 out of 3 people over the age of 60 will fall every year. Of that 1/3 that falls, 40% will also hit their head. That's a brain injury, potentially, and needs to be checked out. Now, if you're on blood thinners, that's particularly dangerous. So I'm not a doctor, but in relation to all of the things that these people have recommended, I would say that the increased physical activity needs to involve some sort of activity that deals with fall prevention. That is something that is not a normal part of aging. Falling is not a normal part of aging. And every time you can prevent a fall, you do better for yourself, for sure. Okay, those are our 3 studies with our little 3 nuggets of information for you. I think you're going to see articles about those studies individually on theoldish.com. That's our main website. Please do go there. I hope that you do like us and follow us on Facebook. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, do that too. You can do that on Facebook. On the left-hand side, there's a little piece that says email. And on our main website, you can sign up at the top, and also to the right of any article that you read, you can sign up for the newsletter. And we will make sure to keep on bringing you the top news from the Oldish. We will see you next Wednesday at 12 noon on Oldish TV. I do hope that you will make a plan to join us then. Until that time, be well, and please do remember that it takes a village to age a senior.